What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with the physique update of Samson Dauda. So we are now less than 4 weeks out of this year's men's open bodybuilding prejudging, and that means only a few more workouts left for each individual body part, because the final week is mostly dedicated to traveling and stuff, to ease things out, to get rid of that inflammation. So how interesting is that? We saw more back updates from Samson Dauda throughout this year's Miss Olympia prep. And his back is that body part, which is always considered his biggest weakness. And him giving us all these back updates, that just goes to show us how confident he is this time. And I believe we are about to see a much better back. Not only just in terms of the thickness and the density, but the overall detail as well. And with more conditioning, more separation and more detail is gonna follow. And that is gonna be a game changer for Samson Dauda this year. So the trajectory of Samson Dauda after 2021, that is just absolutely bonkers. Just looking back at this footage from KO Pro back in 2021, where Samson actually got beat by Regan Grimes, and not just him, Shaban as well, and compare that physique to now today. The man has just doubled in size, and he is entering this year's Miss Olympia as a legitimate contender to win the Olympia title this time. And that, I have to say, is just crazy amount of improvements in just a matter of couple of years. So the legends like Phil Heath and Dexter Jackson, they saw the talent right there and then. They predicted this right there and then, when Samson Dauda was posing, and both these guys were doing the commentary that Samson Dauda with that kind of shape, he is gonna be unstoppable once he gets his back thicker. So the question right now is that, what if Samson checks all the boxes? He checks everything, his best conditioning ever, plus a much better back. So if that happens, do you guys see him fighting for the Olympia title this year? The legendary Phil Heath definitely falls in that category of having the greatest arms of all time. Those guns weren't just big, they were extremely defined, extremely separated, and they had so much detail. Plus there was a great balance between his forearms, his biceps and his triceps. So the man is not retired since 2020, and just take a look at those guns even right now. I have to say, mind-boggling. So Phil was getting so much hate at the late stage of his career, because most of the bodybuilding fans, they were tired of his winning streak, seeing the same man winning year after year, and they wanted a change. But now looking back at that physique, people appreciate him a lot more now. Because the thing is, there is just nobody as complete as Phil Heath was in the men's open bodybuilding right now. So glad to see him getting involved in all these events and staying in such a great shape all year round. So a funny thing about Phil Heath is that, just a few years after being Miss Olympia, he wasn't even training his arms, because Honey Wimborne once said that Phil Heath has such insane genetics that his arms would just grow no matter what he does. And maybe if it wasn't for the social media, who just kept on pointing out his gut and his midsection after the Olympia 2014, because that was the first year, Phil Heath showed a bit of distension, and it became more and more apparent, especially in 2017. And maybe if that wasn't highlighted that much, maybe Phil would have won in 2018 as well. But still winning 7 Sandals in a row, and not even one of his victories was controversial. That just goes to show us how dominant this guy was, and why Phil Heath is known as the gift. Next up is the physique update of another living legend, the most winning IFB pro of all time, a record that will most likely never be broken, Dexter Jackson. So people have started speculating that Dexter should also reconsider his retirement, and maybe come back to compete at the Masters Olympia in 2025. And I'm gonna say there is absolutely zero chance of that ever happening. And no amount of prize money will make Dexter Jackson come out of his retirement. He said this out loud while he was in prep for his last ever Miss Olympia competition back in 2020, that he has competed in 3 different eras, and once it's done, he is gonna be done for good. He is just gonna enjoy his retirement. But at the same time, Dexter always said that he will always be in a superb shape, and he has been living up to his words. So Dexter Jackson is one of those guys who went through his 20 plus years of pro career without even having a single injury. The reason is that he was always very smart, especially when it comes to his training style. And to the people who claim that Dexter always used the machines, that isn't true either. He was using all types of equipments, but at the later stage of his career, he started improvising, and that's actually when he started getting better. Dexter was seriously considering going into retirement after he placed outside of the top 5 back at the Olympia 2011. That was the first time since 2001 when Dexter did not end up in the first 4 spots. But then he gave George Farah another chance, and the rest is history. Can you believe that he was able to win 2 Arnolds as well as place second at the Olympia level after 2011? He is about to turn 55 and the man is still in such a superb shape. The Olympia 2024 list is now out and it is final. A total of 19 guys who have qualified for this year's Miss Olympia. But we can eliminate 3 names from this list. Nathan Deisha and Tony Burton, who are intentionally not competing at this year's big show. And then we have Behrooz Tabani, who is dying to compete at the biggest bodybuilding stage in the world. But we are now less than 4 weeks out of this year's Miss Olympia. And his status is still the same as it has been for the last 2 years. Still pending. So unless a miracle happens, I'm afraid to say he won't make it to the Olympia stage this year either. And that is gonna be such a disappointment for him and for all of us bodybuilding fans as well. So how do you guys rate this lineup? I think this is gonna be one of the greatest Miss Olympia in the last decade or so, because we are watching some of the top guys like Andrew Jack and Samson Dauda and even the reigning champ Derek Lansford really coming into their own. Their weaknesses are now less apparent, and on top of that, their strengths are now more pronounced. And that is what makes this year's Miss Olympia very unpredictable, but at the same time, very exciting. So even with 3 guys less this year, the top 8 this year, that is gonna be absolutely stacked. So who is your dark horse for this year's Miss Olympia? Do let me know in the comments below. Next up is the 26 days out physique update of Michael Daboul. So is Michael really that huge? Or is it that doorway that makes you look more anabolic? So that is that famous doorway where Brandon Curry takes all his progress updates. So Michael is actually looking really massive this year. And I was actually surprised that he is only 6 pounds away from making his weight cutoff. And that is actually nothing, considering we have another 4 more weeks to go. And he seems very confident with his current physique right now that he is gonna be at his all-time best. And that look will surpass his 2023 Miss Olympia look, which was arguably his best ever, which by the way allowed him to place top 6 in the world. So Michael also falls in that category of athletes, where if the IFBB adds let's say another 5 pounds to the classic physique weight limits, he will take a lot of benefit from that. So Michael knows that he needs to be 100% for the Olympia stage. There are some newer guys, they have better shape, better structure, better aesthetics, and they are more classic than him. But Michael has always been that guy, who makes very good condition guys look very soft when they stand next to him. So can you guys believe that just a year back, Michael was actually beating a guy like Wesley Wiesers? I believe it was the Arnold Classic UK, as well as the last Olympia, where Michael was able to beat Wesley. So can Michael crack top 5 at this year's Miss Olympia? And also hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.